Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Thursday, October 10th spoilers for Days of Our Lives show that Mark Green visited with Clyde Weston in jail and told him that Abigail DiMera, Annalyn McCord, was in Paris carrying out a plot. Mark promised that Abigail would soon become Mrs. Chad DiMera, but Clyde wasn't satisfied and rather that she become the widow DiMera. Clyde clarified that he was being cleared by his attorney since Abby was still alive and the drug ring allegations might be withdrawn as a result of procedural violations. For this reason, Clyde would have the DiMera riches at his disposal, but he reasoned that it would be simpler if Chad DiMera had passed away. Keeping that in mind, Clyde pressed Mark to become his hitman and declared that his dear mother would perish if he failed to kill Chad. Abigail listened to Chad's tales about their time spent living in Paris with the children. As a result, Abby started acting as though she could remember things, even though she was recalling emotions rather than precise recollections. Abigail did make mention of seeing the light come through the window in the morning and hearing the pitter-patter of their children's feet. Abby added that she started kissing Chad fiercely because she remembered how much she loved him. As Abigail removed Chad's jacket, things began to heat up, but she abruptly stopped and stated she didn't think they should get personal just yet. Abigail emphasized that she didn't want to wait for too long, despite Chad's assurances that she could wait. That's when Abigail unexpectedly revealed her intention to be married, taking Chad by surprise. Maggie Kyriakis stopped by the Horton home with lemon bars on Thursday's episode of Days, back in Salem, and spoke with Julie Williams. Maggie received updates from Julie regarding the peculiarities surrounding Abigail and Chad's wish for her to recall more from Paris. When Sarah Kyriakis' unexpected recollection of Brady Black driving came up, Julie offered a suggestion that she wouldn't hold it against Sarah if it was made up. Maggie pretended that Sarah wouldn't do that, but Julie couldn't help feeling sorry for Brady since, at his core, he was a decent man. Nevertheless, Julie and Maggie thought that since Brady was taking accountability, everyone could move ahead. On Thursday's DOL broadcast, E.J. DiMera, Dan Feuerriegel, forbade Sarah from retracting her accusation against Brady at the Kyriakis mansion. He threatened to put Sarah in jail for perjury if she attempted to argue with him about this. E.J. contended that since he had negotiated a 10-year sentence for Brady, someone would have to spend 10 years behind bars, even if it had to be Sarah. After becoming enraged with E.J.'s obstacle, Xander thought he might be able to persuade Kristen DiMera, Stacey Hayduke, to give up the serum in any case, so he headed to the DiMera estate to find her. On Thursday's episode of Days, Eric Brady, Greg Vaughn, approached Fiona Cook at Small Bar and inquired about the events of the hit-and-run accident that night. Fiona insisted on coming after Eric suggested talking to the waiter. Brady had called her that evening and discovered Eric intoxicated. When Eric inquired as to whether Fiona also drank, she said that she had been clean for a while. Fiona pretended that Brady had gone alone, but Eric brought up the fact that the waiter had stated that they had left together. Fiona later changed her account and said Brady couldn't be convinced not to drive, suggesting she chased him down in the hopes of getting a cab. Before Xander called to break the terrible news about Sarah, Fiona claimed she had taken a cab back to her room. Though he sounded doubtful of Fiona's account, Eric implied that she had been beneficial. On Thursday's episode of Days, after his chat with Fiona, Eric went back to the Kyriakis estate to speak with Sarah. Eric questioned Brady's innocence and whether Brady was acting on her mother-in-law's behalf after pressuring Sarah to be truthful. Sarah looked surprised and perplexed by that. Days of Our Lives spoilers indicate that Eric will reveal his notion to Sarah in the near future, so we'll share our predictions about Fiona's impending demise. However, there were a few more Days of Our Lives details that were made public that drew our attention. One such detail is the arrival of Javi, Rafe and Gabi's cousin, in Salem. Finding that out answered one of the more recent mysteries surrounding the show. Back in April, Days of Our Lives shared an image of her and actor Al Calderon taken on set from Rafe's house, prior to the network confirming that Sherry Jimenez was, in fact, replacing Gabi. The program speculated on who they may be, and while we learned part of the answer early in the summer, we still had to wait a little while for the other half. However, now that Soap Opera News has announced that Calderon will make his debut on October 28th at the end of this month, we're quite sure we have it under control. Given the fact that the only image we have of Calderon on set is of him with Gabby at Rafe's house and the autumn preview indicated their cousin Javi would soon be arriving in Salem, it becomes highly plausible that the two are identical. Hey, we're always up for a surprise. Nevertheless, Gabby would really benefit from having some additional relatives around right now. Rafe is not at all in favor of this most recent development, even though she and EJ are becoming closer, much to our surprise, as her marriage to Stefan draws to a conclusion. To be exact, he contacted EJ to personally threaten him after learning about their romance. Someone who wouldn't criticize her or approach her predicament with prior animosity against anyone would be a great help to Gabby. Rafe is well-intentioned, but occasionally he goes too far in his role as a protective older brother. However, a helpful relative might lend Gabby the understanding ear she needs. Furthermore, we've been calling for the Hernandez family to grow once more for a very long time. We included that on our list of adjustments for the new writers to make, and we know Sherry Jimenez is probably ecstatic at the news. She expressed her excitement about where the writers take that and expressed her want to see the Hernandez family return in an interview with Soaps.com a while back. Though perhaps not exactly how we had anticipated, it appears that she is receiving her wish. However, what draws their cousin to town is the next mystery. And with whom will he be tampering? He might be having an affair with Holly, who recently got single, depending on his age. It appears that Sophia's strategy to divide them up is succeeding, at least for the time being. Naturally, nothing suggests he's straight, so Leo might want to keep a lookout, that is, if he has finally moved on from Dimitri. But let's hope he stays for a while and doesn't get into as much trouble as cousin Dario did in Salem. According to spoilers for Days of Our Lives, JJ Devereaux is returning to Salem for a very significant purpose. As it happens, JJ has agreed to officiate Chad DiMera and Abigail DiMera's wedding on October 17th and will assist them in getting married. Naturally, JJ would still be dubious of this woman's claim to be his sister. Fans of DOL will remember that JJ wasn't sure whether to believe Clyde Weston's bizarre account at first, but he'll be able to allay any last reservations. According to previews for Days, JJ will officiate the wedding, meaning he will mentor Chad and Abigail during their vow exchange. Chad will believe they're well on their way to a happily ever after, but as part of Clyde's evil scheme, Abigail will continue to deceive him. It will obviously be difficult for Abby because she has grown to love Chad and feels bad about lying to him. Nevertheless, Abigail believes that since her mother is a captive and her life is in jeopardy, she has no choice but to deceive Chad. Days spoilers suggest that Abigail will accompany Chad through the ceremony, albeit there might be a few bumps along the way. Because she is so overcome with remorse, Abby could be tempted to back out of the wedding, but she will persevere. It appears like Abigail will be able to marry Chad, which means that the next part of Clyde's scheme will be finished. Abigail is getting closer to obtaining the DiMera riches since Clyde is requiring it, or else she won't be able to visit her mother ever again. Next, Chad and Abigail will rejoice with some of their closest loved ones during their wedding reception. But things will also take an unexpected turn at this celebration. We'll see if the mayhem that our Days predicts is the result of Abigail's possible fraud exposure or if there may have been an attempt on Chad's life. Regarding Chad, Mark Green will have a hard time following Clyde's lethal commands, but you can be sure that Clyde will do everything it takes to get to Chad. We'll keep you informed on all the exciting stuff that's coming since spoilers for Days of Our Lives indicate that this whole plan is about to go completely haywire.